What's up everybody? Thanks for coming back to the channel. Today I've got a little bit of a different video. I wanted to discuss what it's like to be a freelancer, specifically sharing from my personal experience coming from a videographer to a director of photography. I've been freelancing for about 6 years now and wanted to share some things that I've learned over the years. The topics I'm going to discuss is schedule, free work, on-set duties, and the different types of productions you might be on, day rates, contracts, invoices, estimates, and taxes. A lot of the stuff that it takes to be a freelancer is not what you can see from Instagram or a lot of times on YouTube. So I thought this could be really helpful and I wanted to share this with you. So let's dive right in.
So my first topic is schedule. What is your life gonna look like as a freelancer? Now this may vary depending on where you are in your career. From my experience, starting as a videographer and moving into a director of photography, at the beginning, you're taking on a lot of small projects. You are planning everything, finding wardrobe locations, shooting, editing. You're wearing all the hats. You're building relationships so you don't have as many clients and you can't charge as much. So I remember the first couple of years freelancing kind of being miserable because there was so big of gaps between projects. Somehow I was able to still pay my bills. That's one thing that you have to think about is do you do good with unstructured time? And are you gonna hustle or are you gonna kind of just wait around for the next job? I feel like I've been kind of a mixture of both. Sometimes I just don't really know what to do with myself on those off days and it can kind of be depressing. And then other times I get into a creative mode and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna create my own short film or run my own commercial. And I've talked about that on my channel before, is creating passion projects. Most freelancers talk about the winter like it's just dead because not many people are wanting to do creative projects in the winters. They're usually planning during the winter. Come spring, then it starts picking back up. That's something you have to think about and also plan for as far as finances go. As a freelancer, you might want to put aside some when you're getting into your winter. Another interesting thing about being a freelancer, a typical person works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. There is kind of a benefit. You have more free time when you don't have work, but then when you do get a job, it might be on a weekend or it might be for 3 or 4 days straight and the days are longer. They're 10 to 12-hour days shooting. And then if you do start getting longer form projects, short films, feature films, maybe TV series, you're gonna be gone for a long time and working on a project, the same project for months on end. It's just something to think about. All right, the next thing that you'll find as a freelancer is you end up doing a lot of free work. And I'm not talking about the passion projects. I'm talking about for paid work, you end up doing a lot of free work, whether that's emails, phone calls, pricing out different things, sending bids. There's a lot that goes into a project that you might not get paid for. Maybe some people out there do get paid for all that stuff, but I think a lot of freelancers are kind of in the same boat as me, where I'll have a project, director talks to me, hey, this is what we're wanting to do. I'll start to kind of formulate ideas about it, start looking into lens rentals or certain grip rental that we would need for the project, see how much it is, because they're relying on me to give them that information. I spend a couple days looking into all that. More conversations happen, there's phone calls, there's emails. Finally, the project gets canned and it never comes to fruition. All that work that you just put into it, you'll never get paid for. All right, now diving into the real work, since you've done all that free work, you're gonna have different on-set duties depending on your different jobs, but I will speak from a DP perspective. When you're on set, you are thinking in 3 different ways: communicative, creative, and physical. So those are the 3 areas you're gonna have responsibilities with each. So you're gonna need to communicate all your ideas, the ideas of the director, to your crew to technically accomplish that. Then there's the creative, which is mostly between you and the director, the producers, sometimes the actor, definitely your gaffer and other people on set. But like coming up with the creative ideas to tell the story. Then there's the physical. That's more the camera operating, especially like handheld gimbal work. You're also gonna be on your feet pretty much the entire day. Another thing I wanted to touch on in real work is the different types and styles of shoots and what you might find. So commercial, let's say. I find that on a commercial set, you're gonna have a lot more politics to play. There's gonna be a client there, there's gonna be the producers there, there's the director, there's all these people. It's almost imposed onto you that like you can't say anything that makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. Even if it's just like creative talking with the director, asking questions, like there is kind of this unstated rule that like we have to act like we have everything planned out to a T and we know exactly what we're doing. And I typically don't find that to be the most creative or fulfilling environment. Now, not all commercial sets are gonna be like that, but from my experiences, I have found that to be the case. There's a lot of politics. Music video sets are fun and creative, but there is a lot of different voices coming in. You have like the artist's voice who has different ideas, the director's voice, maybe even like the music producer who produced the song, like they're coming up with their ideas. So it can be kind of like a hodgepodge of ideas in the mix. Then there's narrative. You have everyone who has their roles. It's a big ship. So like turning the ship is gonna take some time, but the cool thing about narrative work, you're gonna be with those same people every day for a long time. So I find that really enjoyable and fun to get to know each other and kind of become like a family. Lastly, documentary work. Documentary, you're kind of on the talent's schedule because they're just living their regular life. And so now you have to plan out the shoot depending on when they're free. So that can be really difficult. Documentary is usually pretty chill, not as many egos. A lot of times I've found that it's just a smaller crew. It can be enjoyable for that reason too. Last thing I wanted to touch on is kind of how the schedule works. Typically I find you get a schedule maybe like a week or two out, like a kind of a general schedule, might not be stuck to, but then the night before you get what's called a call sheet that has the location addresses, it has all the crew and cast and all the phone numbers, the names of everybody, and you can kind of see everything in one spot. So if it's a 3-day shoot, every night you'll get the call sheet for the next day. Call times are pretty early in the film world because everybody loves morning light and evening light. So you work on a 12-hour day most of the time, and people want to get that 6 a.m. Sunrise. So if you're not a morning person, it is kind of a challenge. I'm definitely more of a night owl, but I love shooting, so typically I can get up and just get out the door early and get on set. So you can do it even if you're not a morning person. This last section I wanted to touch on kind of all the business aspects of being a freelancer. You're basically running your own company. So first thing, make yourself a good contract, even maybe have a lawyer look at it, but there's a lot of examples online. And really that is to communicate your needs to the client or producer so that everything is in writing and the two of you sign that, so it's stated up front that you are agreeing to these terms. So let me just take a look at mine that I made after the first couple of years of being a videographer. I started to notice some things happen. I shot the video, I edited it, and then they wanted like a revision. Okay, no problem, let me do that revision. Well, then they wanted another one, and another, and another. And it's like 6 revisions later, you're just like, I want this project to be done and off my plate. So that was one thing. That's one of my clauses, is like fixed number of revisions. So you state like, okay, you get 2 revisions, and then after that, you have to pay more for that. Another clause is late payments. So you have your own deadlines that are stated in your contract that says, I'm gonna shoot at this time, edit it, and you should receive it at this time. Then you have this amount of time for revisions, and then I need to be paid. If I don't get paid by X date, then there's a late fee, so that your client takes you serious and doesn't kind of just keep going, oh, well, I'll get to it at some point. I think another one is point of contact. You don't want to have a bunch of people emailing you questions and everything. You just want one point of contact. So I put that in there. Copyrights, termination, weather, deadlines, and loss and liability. These are all things that I think you should think about if you're just starting out, what you would have in a contract. Contracts don't have to be super complicated and a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, especially if you're just starting out. Like, just write down everything that you and the point person have talked about in a clear way and then have it signed. It's just a way of clearly stating what was already talked about, where if you had it on a phone call, but now a month later, people don't remember what they said. So it's nice to have it in writing. Typically, people in the film industry work off of a day rate. So every different position has a day rate, and typically it's by city that you can find a general census of what that day rate is. If you're just starting out, I don't think you should be charging what somebody who's been working 10 years and has a lot more skill and expertise than you. Why you want to keep bumping your day rate up is because the type of clients, let's say you're doing 10 projects a month at $250, you're making $2,500 a month. Cool. Now, next year, you only have to do 5 shoots to make the same amount when you're at 500. And then the type of clients that are willing to pay you will understand that, hey, I've got more experience now, so I'm charging this. But a lot of them, when you do double your day rate the next year, will probably end up going, okay, well, never mind, I can't, afford you anymore. But that's okay, because the time that you now have in that month, because you're only shooting 5 shoots instead of 10, that time you can spend building relationships, networking, sending cold emails, what have you, to get more clients. And then once you kind of hit your city's norm for that position, I would say maybe think about stopping, unless you think you're just way better than everybody else and you can charge that and you're gonna keep getting hired. But I do think at some point in your city, people will just go, well, I'll just hire this guy because he's down at this rate. Okay, I wanna touch on estimates and invoices. An estimate is where a producer maybe reaches out, says, hey, I have this project for client X and I'd like to hire you. What do you think this is gonna cost to pull off? Now, in that case, I would put, my DP rate, maybe the camera rental, lens rental, lighting, crew, all that. And then I could send that to him and then he can decide, okay, is this something we can handle or not? Maybe they have references to show you kind of the style of the shoot that they want. So then you would go, oh, well, they shot this with a Steadicam, so we need a Steadicam and a Steadicam op. Another way that can happen is a producer would say, hey, this is our budget, what can we afford to do? And then another way is where they just say, hey, we want to hire you as the camera op or the DP or whatever position they want to hire you as, and they just tell you the rate or they ask you your rate and that's it. That's estimates. Now, invoices are sent after the shoot, and typically the commercial world works on a net 30, which means 30 days after you shoot, you should get paid. I find that that doesn't happen very often. So that's another part of the freelance life, that you could be waiting 6, maybe even 8 weeks before you get paid for a job. You don't have the money in your hands. It's all like out there and you're waiting for it to get to you. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is taxes, and something most people hate. It's boring, but it's important. If you work from home, you can write off a portion of your rent or mortgage. You can write off a portion of your phone bill, your internet bill. You can write off all your miles, so you need to keep track of your miles. Anything you buy for your business, whether it's equipment, you should research. I'm just kind of blowing through it, but there is a lot of write-offs that you can get as a freelancer so that you're not paying a lot in taxes. So I don't think I'm the best person to talk about taxes. Just look into it, but I definitely wanted to touch on it because it was something I didn't know about when I went freelance. So I hope this video was informative, that it was beneficial to you, whether you are just starting out freelancing or you're thinking about doing that. If you have any other questions, put them in the comments below because I kind of went pretty quick and glossed over some things, so I'll be happy to answer questions. If you like this video, subscribe, share it. I would love to get to 2,000 subscribers here soon, so help me get there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.